Imagine this. It's 1933, a time of strict censorship and ultra-conservative values. But suddenly, a completely naked woman appears on the silver screen, and the camera zooms in to capture an expression of pure, forbidden ecstasy. Moments that were considered absolutely illegal at the time. This scandal was so explosive that Pope Pius V personally condemned the film, and Adolf Hitler banned it entirely. Today, we are tearing off the mask of old-fashioned decency from early Hollywood and European cinema. I'm going to show you the 10 most provocative and forbidden films of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, movies that managed to bypass every law and show passion in ways that even modern directors might hesitate to film. But before we reveal these hidden gems, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see where our most sophisticated viewers are located. And make sure to subscribe if you aren't afraid of the real, unfiltered history of cinema. Number 10. Babyface, 1933. Number 10 is the ultimate pre-code masterpiece, Babyface, starring the unstoppable Barbara Stanwyck. If you think old movies are innocent, this one will shatter that illusion in the first 5 minutes. The story follows Lily Powers, a woman who is exploited by her father and decides to turn the tables on the world. She literally sleeps her way to the top of a massive banking corporation, moving from the basement to the penthouse by using the men in charge as stepping stones. Each time she conquers a new executive, the camera tilts up the side of the building, a visual metaphor for her ruthless ascent that left 1930s audiences gasping. The boldness of Babyface lies in its unapologetic message. In a world run by corrupt men, a woman's sexuality is her most powerful weapon. Behind the scenes, the production was a constant battle with the censors. The original version was so immoral that it was rejected by the New York State Board of Regents. They demanded over 30 cuts because Lily was never punished for her sins. She actually won. Here is a fascinating fun fact. The version we see today was considered lost for decades. It wasn't until 2004 that the original uncensored theatrical cut was discovered in a Library of Congress vault in Dayton, Ohio. During filming, Stanwyck was so committed to the role's hardness that she insisted on doing a scene where she burns her father's speakeasy down herself. This film is the reason the strict motion picture production code was finally enforced. It was simply too hot for Hollywood to handle. Number 9. Ecstasy, 1933. Number 9 is the film that started it all, the Czech sensation Ecstasy, starring a very young Hedy Lamarr. This is the movie I mentioned in the beginning, and its place in history is legendary. It tells the story of a young woman trapped in a passionless marriage to an older man who eventually finds true desire with a young engineer. This film broke every rule in the book by featuring the first ever portrayal of a female orgasm in non-pornographic cinema. Lamarr's face in close-up became one of the most controversial images in the world, leading to the film being seized by U.S. Customs and banned in dozens of countries. The boldness here wasn't just the nudity, it was the raw, emotional honesty of female desire, which was a taboo subject in the early 30s. Behind the scenes, the director, Gustav Machadi, had to go to extreme lengths to get the performance he wanted. There is a famous, though debated, fun fact that to capture the look of ecstasy on Hedy, Lamarr's face during her close-up, the director allegedly poked her with a safety pin from off-camera to get a sharp, physical reaction. Lamarr, who later became a brilliant inventor and Hollywood icon, spent years trying to live down the reputation this film gave her. Her husband at the time, a wealthy arms dealer, was so humiliated by the film that he spent a fortune trying to buy up every single copy in existence to destroy them. He failed, and the film survived as a testament to the era's most daring expression of human intimacy. Number 8, The Outlaw, 1943. Number 8 is the movie that turned Hollywood's censorship board into a laughingstock, Howard Hughes's The Outlaw. While it's technically a Western about Billy the Kid, nobody was looking at the guns. The entire world was looking at the debut of Jane Russell. This film became a cultural firestorm not because of what it showed, but because of how it showed it. Director and billionaire eccentric Howard Hughes was obsessed with Jane Russell's physique, and he directed the film with a fixated focus on her cleavage that the censors of the 1940s found absolutely scandalous. It was so provocative for its time that the film was pulled from theaters and faced a legal battle that lasted years. The boldness of this movie lies in the sheer defiance of Howard Hughes. He didn't care about the rules. He wanted to push the limits of what was decent. Behind the scenes, Hughes took his obsession to a mechanical level, being an aviation engineer he was unhappy with how standard bras performed on camera, so he actually designed a special cantilevered underwire bra specifically for Jane Russell to wear in the film to enhance her look. However, here is a hilarious fun fact. Russell later admitted in her autobiography that the bra was incredibly uncomfortable and painful to wear. She secretly ditched Hughes's high-tech invention, padded her own bra with tissues, and adjusted the straps, and the billionaire genius never even noticed the difference. The film's marketing was just as bold, featuring posters of Russell lying in the hay with the caption, "How would you like to tussle with Russell?" It was a marketing masterclass that turned a standard Western into the most talked about, forbidden movie of the decade. Number 7, Bitter Rice, Riso Amaro, 1949. Number 7 takes us to Italy for a film that defined neorealism with a heavy dose of raw sensuality, Bitter Rice. In the late 40s, while Hollywood was still trapped in strict morality codes, Italian cinema was exploding with grit and passion. The story follows two petty criminals who hide out among the female workers in the rice fields of the Po Valley. The film stars Silvana Mangano, and her appearance in this movie changed European cinema forever. She played a rice worker in tight shorts and torn stockings, wading through the water, an image so earthy and charged with sexual energy that it became an overnight sensation across the globe. What makes Bitter Rice so bold is how it blends social commentary with undeniable eroticism. It wasn't glamorous in the Hollywood sense. It was sweaty, dirty, and intensely physical. Behind the scenes, Silvana Mangano was only 18 years old when she took the role, and she had never acted before. The director, Giuseppe De Santis, wanted a natural beauty who looked like she actually belonged in the mud of the rice fields. Here is a fascinating fun fact. The film was so successful and Mangano's look was so iconic that she was dubbed the Italian Rita Hayworth. However, the Catholic Church was absolutely horrified. They condemned the film for its excessive realism and the way it depicted the female body. Despite the protests, the film was a massive hit in America, proving that audiences were hungry for the kind of raw honesty that Hollywood directors were forbidden from filming. It remains a landmark of the era when European film began to lead the world in cinematic daring. Number 6 is the film that defined the femme fatale for all of eternity, Gilda, starring the incomparable Rita Hayworth. Released right after World War II, this movie is a psychological minefield of obsession and jealousy. The plot follows a small-time gambler who gets a job working for a casino owner in Argentina, only to find out that the owner's new wife is his own former flame. What makes this film incredibly bold isn't full nudity. It's the striptease that isn't actually a striptease. In the legendary Put the Blame on Mame sequence, Gilda peels off a single black glove, but she does it with such intense, suggestive energy that it felt more explicit than anything audiences had seen in years. It was a masterclass in how to bypass the censors by using pure charisma and subtext. Behind the scenes, the production was calculated to be as provocative as possible within the rules of the Hays Code. The dress Rita Hayworth wore, a strapless black satin gown, became so iconic that it has its own Wikipedia page today. But here is a fascinating and somewhat dark fun fact. The boldness of the character Gilda actually haunted Rita Hayworth's real life. She famously said, "Every man I knew went to bed with Gilda and woke up with me." Men were so obsessed with her on-screen image that they couldn't handle her real personality. Additionally, the film's subtext was so daring for 1946 that many critics believe there is a hidden homoerotic tension between the two male leads, something director Charles Vider deliberately layered into the film to see if the censors would catch it. They didn't, but the audience certainly felt the heat. Number 5, And God Created Woman, Et Dieu créa la femme, 1956. Number 5 is the film that officially ended the innocent era of the 1950s and introduced the world to Brigitte Bardot. And God Created Woman is a French explosion of sun, sand, and uninhibited desire. Bardot plays Juliette, a young orphan in a small coastal town who is driven by her own impulses rather than social rules. This film was a lightning bolt to the heart of conservative cinema. While American movies were still showing married couples sleeping in separate twin beds, Bardot was dancing barefoot, sweat glistening, and radiating a level of sexual freedom that the world simply wasn't prepared for. The boldness of this film lies in its total rejection of shame. It portrayed a woman who enjoyed her own body and her own desires without being punished by the plot, a huge departure from the moralistic movies of the time. Behind the scenes, the director, Roger Vadim, was actually married to Bardot at the time. He wanted to show the world the real Brigitte, and he pushed her to be as natural and unscripted as possible. Here is a wild fun fact. When the film reached the United States, it was so controversial that it was actually seized by the police in some cities, and theater owners were arrested for showing it. It was labeled pornographic by the National Legion of Decency, which only made people want to see it more. Bardot became the sex kitten of the century, and this film single-handedly broke the back of the American censorship system, proving that foreign films could bring in massive money by being daring. Number 4, Duel in the Sun, 1946. Number 4 is a film so famously overheated that critics at the time nicknamed it Lust in the Dust. Duel in the Sun was a massive Technicolor Western produced by David O. Selznick, who was determined to top his own success with Gone with the Wind. The movie centers on Pearl Chavez, played by Jennifer Jones, a half-breed woman caught between two brothers, one noble, the other a violent, lustful outlaw, played by Gregory Peck. The boldness here is in the raw, animalistic passion. It featured scenes of suggestive dancing and a level of sexual violence that was almost unheard of in a mainstream Hollywood epic. The final scene, where the two lovers literally crawl through the dirt toward each other in a bloody, tragic embrace, is one of the most intense sequences in cinema history. Behind the scenes, the production was a chaotic obsession for Selznick. He was in love with Jennifer Jones and was determined to make her the most desirable woman on screen, no matter the cost. He spent millions of dollars on retakes, demanding that the heat between the leads be palpable. Here is a fascinating fun fact. The film faced so much pushback from the Catholic Legion of Decency that Selznick had to hire multiple religious advisors to sit in the editing room and tell him which shots of cleavage or hip swaying were too sinful. Despite their presence, the film remained so provocative that it was banned in several cities, including Memphis, Tennessee, for immorality. To get the realistic struggle in their scenes, Gregory Peck and Jennifer Jones were pushed to physical exhaustion, filming in the blistering heat of the Arizona desert until they were genuinely bruised and battered. Number 3, Ossessione, 1943. Number 3 is a film that was so daring it was actually ordered to be destroyed by the Italian fascist government. Ossessione, directed by Luchino Visconti, is the original unacknowledged adaptation of the novel The Postman Always Rings Twice. It tells the story of a drifter who stops at a roadside tavern and begins a torrid, murderous affair with the owner's wife. While Hollywood's version of this story had to be polished and censored, Visconti's Italian version was sweaty, grim, and deeply erotic. It showed life in the provinces as a place of boredom and desperate physical longing. It was the birth of Italian neorealism, but it was far more dangerous than the films that followed. The boldness of this movie lies in its rejection of official beauty. It showed dirty kitchens, unwashed skin, and a level of carnal desire that was considered a direct insult to the purity demanded by the Mussolini regime. Behind the scenes, Visconti didn't even have the legal rights to the book. He simply filmed it anyway. When the film was premiered, the fascist authorities were so horrified by its sordid nature that they seized the negatives and ordered them to be burned. Here is a wild fun fact. Visconti managed to save one secret copy of the negative, which he hid away until the war was over. If he hadn't risked his life to keep that one copy, this masterpiece would have been lost to history forever. The lead actress, Clara Calamai, was a massive star known for glamour roles, but Visconti forced her to appear without makeup, looking exhausted and real, which shocked audiences who were used to seeing her as a shining goddess of the screen. Number 2, Double Indemnity, 1944. Number 2 is the ultimate forbidden thriller of the 40s, Billy Wilder's Double Indemnity. This film shouldn't have been made. The Hays Office, Hollywood's censorship board, outright told the studio that the book it was based on was unfilmable because it showed a cold-blooded murder committed by a woman and an insurance salesman for money and lust. But Billy Wilder was a genius of subtext. The boldness here is in the dialogue. Every line spoken between Barbara Stanwyck and Fred MacMurray is dripping with sexual double entendres that the censors couldn't technically ban, but everyone in the audience understood. When Stanwyck stands at the top of the stairs wearing nothing but a towel and a gold anklet, it became one of the most scandalous images of the decade. Behind the scenes, the production was a battle of wits. To make Stanwyck look cheap and dangerous, Wilder forced her to wear a clearly fake metallic blonde wig. The studio head hated it, but Wilder insisted it made her look like a woman who didn't care about rules. Here is a fascinating fun fact. Fred MacMurray was so terrified of playing a bad guy that he turned the role down multiple times, fearing it would destroy his nice guy image. But the real boldness happened in the shadows. To get the smoggy look of a corrupt Los Angeles, the crew sprayed a mixture of oil and water into the air on set, making the air so thick and hard to breathe that the actors were constantly coughing between takes. This film was so successful that it broke the censors' power. It proved that audiences wanted to see the dark, immoral side of life, paving the way for every crime thriller that followed. Number 1, The Miracle, Il Miracolo, 1948. And finally, number 1. This isn't just a film. It is the reason why movies in America are protected by the First Amendment today. The Miracle, directed by Roberto Rossellini and starring Anna Magnani, tells the story of a simple-minded peasant woman who is seduced by a bearded stranger she believes is Saint Joseph. She becomes pregnant and believes she is carrying the new Messiah. In 1948, this was the ultimate blasphemy. The boldness was extreme. It blended raw sexuality with religious fervor in a way that caused a global explosion of anger. When it reached New York in 1950, it was labeled sacrilegious and vile, and the Catholic Church organized massive protests outside theaters. The behind-the-scenes story of this film ended up in the Supreme Court of the United States. The film was actually banned by the New York State Board of Regents, who revoked its license. But the distributor fought back, leading to the landmark 1952 case Joseph Burstyn, Inc. vs. Wilson. Here is the incredible fun fact. Before this movie, films were legally considered business ventures and had no right to free speech. Because of the miracle, the Supreme Court ruled that movies are a form of artistic expression protected by the Constitution. This one film literally gave filmmakers the legal right to be provocative. On set, Anna Magnani gave a performance so raw and unhinged that she actually suffered a nervous breakdown during filming. She was so committed to the blasphemy of the role that she refused to wear makeup or have her hair done, wanting the world to see the ugly, naked truth of a woman driven mad by faith and desire. There you have it, the 10 most provocative, daring, and rule-breaking films of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. These weren't just movies. They were acts of rebellion that shaped the world we live in today. But I want to hear your take. Does modern cinema feel tame compared to the risk these directors took back then? And which of these black and white legends surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to mention where you're watching from. If you want more deep dives into the hidden, scandalous history of Hollywood, hit that like button and subscribe. The past is never as innocent as it looks. Thanks for watching and stay curious.